not today's date.
Yeah, August 31st.
Okay, all right. Welcome to the zoning hearing board, August 31st, 2021. We're going to continue where this is a special meeting. We're going to continue where we left off. We have, before I go any further, is there any other to put in?
Not right now, but we will
Okay.
mark them and introduce them shortly.
All right, John, I understand you have something you want to show us, some videos or photos.
Well, I'm going to call Mr. McDonald to testify, just some intro, and then we'll put on some videos and show some photographs,
Okay.
right?
Mr.
Can I-
McDonald have to be sworn in.
Okay. Be sworn in.
I do.
All right. Good evening again, John Fenningham for the McDonald's, who are party status objectors to this application before you. Just to restate, Mr. Fioravanti was tested positive for COVID. He's quarantined. He does have symptoms. So everyone's worked together to postpone his cross-examination and further testimony until late September. We'll fix the date, I understand. So I'll call Scott McDonald in support of the McDonald's opposition. See if we can do it this way. State your address, Scott.
829 Edgewood Road in Lower Makefield Township.
Are you married?
Yes,
Your wife's name?
Catherine McDonald.
Do you have children living with you at the address you mentioned?
We do, 3 children.
And how long have you lived at that location, which is adjoining the Bassinger's property, including the flag lot parcel next to your property? How long have you lived there?
Approximately 4 years.
And prior to living at that location, have you lived in the township at other locations?
I have. In the development called, we were at 163 Crestview Way and 1265 Thames Crescent, both within the township.
And how many years totally have you lived within the township?
About 30 years.
Did you attend and graduate from college, and if so, where?
I attended Duke University and graduated with a bachelor's degree in geology in 1977.
Did you take and pass any postgraduate programs?
I did. I attended Rice University and obtained a master's degree in geology in 1984.
And after that higher education, have you had occasion to take any career programs, seminars, attend any conferences of that sort?
Yes, just part of professional development. I've attended numerous short courses, conferences, seminars, webinars, all the above, in areas that pertain to general work areas that I've been involved in.
Have you been certified in any field of specialization?
Yes, and I'll try to make it quick. I was just trying to remember all the things I do and where I have been. Let me back up. Sorry, John. You're asking a different question. Yes, I've been certified by the state of Pennsylvania as a professional geologist for many years.
And who are you currently employed by?
I'm employed by Ramboll, which is a global engineering and environmental consultancy.
And do you have a field of specialization in your employment with Ramboll?
Well, I do. I have probably multiple areas where I've been advising private and public sector clients, law firms, private equity, other financial sector clients for probably over 30 years now in a range of environmental related matters. And not to list everything, but just to give you a flavor of my background, I think it helps illustrate that I'm familiar with the kinds of discussions we're having here in this matter. These issues aren't new to me.
Can I interrupt? real
aren't
quick?
new.
Excuse me, can I interrupt?
Yes.
I have trouble hearing.
Oh,
Just
okay.
Anyway, can I, if I can, Mr. Murphy, can I ask you to share the mic, just because I can't hear you? Or I'm having trouble hearing you, that's all. Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right.
And that way, hopefully I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Pam.
I was trying to cover both, but, so let me just drill down a bit, Scott. So in your employment activities and your training, do you deal with surface water remediation and geological issues?
Yes.
And do you, you have to speak into the mic.
Sorry.
And do you deal with remediation of wetlands and things of that sort?
Yes.
And you also deal with the costs, et cetera, of surface water controls and different submissions to governmental regulatory bodies.
Yes.
Have you previously been qualified as an expert in administrative proceedings or litigation matters?
I have.
And one time, multiple times, just give the board a sense of your background and your qualifications as an expert in the field you mentioned.
So I've been qualified as an expert witness in probably at least 30, maybe 40 different matters pertaining to the performance or non-performance of environmental matters, natural resource damages litigation, private party cost recovery, federal superfund, right? We all know that term or have heard that term, matters, allocations, and other related matters. I also work pretty extensively in the area of international arbitration and have provided expert assistance on numerous matters in Africa, Panama, Ecuador, Colombia, Kyrgyzstan, and other places. And in those cases, and most recently, I served as a third-party neutral to an arbitral tribunal in a matter involving the Republic of Ecuador versus Perenco, which is a French oil and gas company. So all of these matters involve affected media. By that, I mean soils, groundwater, surface water, sediment, and work around those issues. So that's generally the range of litigation-related work that I do.
So bringing
Mhm.
central to what's before this board, did you receive and review the original application for zoning relief filed by the Mr. and Mrs. Deck?
Mr. Fenningham,
Mhm.
before you continue, are you offering Mr. McDonald as an expert witness or as a fact witness?
As a fact witness, but I wanted the board to have a sense of his special background. So I'm not offering him as an expert.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. But if anyone wants to ask him expert opinion questions, feel free to do so. I thought you would. So did you receive and review the original application that was filed on behalf of the Decks?
I did.
And what was your reaction to that application?
Well, I guess a couple of things. One, and I would say, despite concerns that had been raised previously with both the Bossingers and the Decks about property conditions, the effect of storm events on our property, and those properties further downstream of us. I was surprised, candidly, to see that in the proposed development that was entirely within the floodplain and wetland buffer areas. And candidly, again, and with all due respect, I think the initial plans showed a lack of recognition. And I guess, really appreciation of the conditions existing at the Bossingers property. The effects of surface water flow in the area and the flooding associated with the creek.
When you say the Bassinger's property, are you referring to the property at issue, the flag lot parcel, or the Bassinger's own parcel?
The flag lot parcel. We did, on different occasions, invite both the Bossingers and the Decks over to see our property, but they didn't accept those invitations, and as far as I know, they haven't directly observed conditions on our property.
Now, after reviewing the original plan, did you speak with anyone in behalf of anyone with the township?
I did. As part of our own, I guess, due diligence, I did reach out to the township. I probably asked for Jim Majewski originally. He wasn't available. I spoke with one of his colleagues, a fellow named Mike Kirk. And we talked at some length about this property. We reviewed together information available on the township's website, FEMA maps, wetlands maps, other available information that he helped me navigate through. At least from that conversation, without a doubt, Mr. Kirk expressed concerns about the property, believed that it was not buildable in its current form. There was no access, of course, at that time, and there still isn't, and there was protected natural resources. I am aware that a couple of others, folks that I know, had talked directly with Jim Majewski. Now, I was not a party to those conversations, so I don't want to misstate, right, what may have been discussed at that time.
Did you come to learn then after that the Decks withdrew their original application?
I did.
And did you come to learn that they submitted a revised application?
Yes.
And what was your reaction to that revised application? That's the proposal before the board.
Well, again, I would say that even though the proposed dwelling was moved, somewhat reconfigured, smaller in size, it still lies within the floodplain area. And that, if these parcels were to be developed, at least in my mind, there'd be additional contribution and exacerbation of those conditions affecting my property and others in downstream areas.
And are those the reasons that you continue to oppose the application before the board?
Those are the reasons, and obviously combined with the views and opinions of Mr. Fioravanti.
And despite your background, you obviously retained Mr. Fioravanti to assist you and Kathy in the opposition to this application.
Yes.
Scott, you were here on, I believe, August 3 when I asked questions of Justin Giannotti. Were you not?
That's correct.
And specifically asked him questions about two exhibits, Exhibit A4, which is the applicant's zoning plan, and also Exhibit A7, which is the Alta survey plan. Do you recall?
I do.
And Justin testified that that the notes that we referred to that night, the note 32 on the zoning plan and the note on the Alta plan, Exhibit A7, Justin testified that those notes were mistakes. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
Do you believe those notes are mistakes, as Justin so testified?
Well, I guess what I can, I'm sorry, Barbara.
I'm sorry, what is the basis for him forming that opinion?
Well, we heard the testimony and he explained his background and his knowledge of,
But he wasn't
Matters.
involved in the preparation of that plan. I don't know how he can offer a testimony as to what is on the note, on the plan as a note or not.
well, I think he heard the testimony, saw the exhibits, and he can form an opinion, a layman can form an opinion whether those notes appear to be mistakes or provide substantive information.
I renew my objection as to him not having a basis to form that type of opinion. I mean, it's up to the board to decide whether or not the testimony was credible versus what was written on the plan.
I didn't ask him whether Justin's testimony was credible. I asked him if, in his judgment and his experience, does he think those notes are mistakes? That's what I asked him. I think he can have a layman's opinion about that.
I still don't understand how he would understand someone else's notes in the preparation of someone else's plans. I mean, you can maybe ask that question in a different way or get to it in a different way, but I don't know how he can opine, layman or otherwise, about a mistake from someone else.
Right.
I think you can get to it a different way.
Well, I don't want to belabor it. I guess I could. I could lay a foundation for plans that he has reviewed and notes and disclaimers, but I don't want to get off track. I'll move on. But let's go back to August 3, because that night, Mr. Tritt also raised a question to me as to the status of your own property, whether it was situated within the floodplain or not. Do you recall that question that night?
I do.
And can you just describe for the board your situation with your house in its location adjoining the flag lot parcel?
Yes, so when we acquired the property, we were aware that a creek was present. I did some of my own diligence with respect to whatever I could find noodling around on the internet. Talked at length with the homeowners about the creek and its behavior over the last 30 years that they've lived there. Had it flooded? Had they had any problems with significant erosion as a result of storm events, the things we're talking about here? And the answer was no. Didn't have any reason not to believe that answer at that time, but we subsequently came to a very different understanding over the last 4 years that we've lived there, with significant flooding as a result of fairly, I'll call common storm events, significant property erosion on a routine basis. And you'll see some of that in the videos and the pictures which are to come. I've also was familiar with the representation or illustration of the 100-year floodplain across my property, the designation of a special flood hazard area that runs through my property and also the flag lot property. So I had familiarity with all of this, and so we acquired what we acquired. And now it's a bit of a mess, but we're just trying to deal with it
Can I
in a
ask you one
reasonable
thing?
way. Mhm.
Did you say you just, you bought the property 4 years ago?
Yes,
So you've lived there 4 years?
yes.
And with the time you were purchasing the property, you canvassed the neighborhood to see if there was any problems with the stream or flooding? I mean, that's what it sounded like you said, despite all your,
Well,
you use your geology knowledge and other facts. It sounds like you just asked, I'm just asking a question here, and you still went and bought, and now you have problems. Is that correct?
That's
Nice.
correct.
Okay,
Tony, can I ask a question?
certainly.
This is, my question prompted this part of the testimony. So Scott, just for your background, I'm a civil engineer, working construction engineering development. I have my own company. I live on Deer Path Road, so and my property does back up to the stream as well. So I'm downstream from where you are. I just did a little research on Google Earth. You have over 700 foot of stream frontage on your property. Correct?
That sounds about right.
Okay. as a geologist and you understand the issues on water quality degradation and you testified to these issues, what's the best way to prevent soil erosion and the degradation of the water quality?
Well, I mean, you have to, well,
Well,
I can help
I'm
the
gonna-
answer.
I'm just going to react that he's asking an expert opinion. So if,
Well, he's presented himself.
well,
as a
that's what I argued
geologist.
about, asking his opinion about the notes.
So let me ask you this. You're concerned about taking vegetation down, you're concerned about developing the lot, but you've got 700 feet of stream frontage that has no vegetation on it at all. Matter of fact, you mow right up to the edge of the stream. That does nothing but increase the issues downstream for people like me and people at Makefield Lakes. So have you considered any kind of vegetation program? I myself, when I put a fence in back my property, I allowed a 40-foot buffer. I let the vegetation go back to a natural state just for this very reason. But you mow up to the edge of yours and you're concerned about erosion, you're concerned about water quality?
Well, let me interject.
Well, no, just answer the question.
Well, I know you are asking.
No,
the
I
question.
didn't ask you. I asked Scott.
I know you did, but the focus isn't on what his property, what the condition of his property is. The focus is whether development of an upstream property is going to exacerbate the conditions.
I know, but I want to know what Scott feels about what are you going to do to help me downstream and other people when you've got 700 feet of grass going up against the stream?
What he's going to do is oppose this application so it doesn't get
But
additional
that's
flow.
beside the point, though. He's causing a problem already with his. I know you didn't create this problem. You
Well-
bought the property, but anyway.
All right. I think he's got the point. You understand what he's saying. I understand what he's saying.
I understand his question, yes.
He has a point. I got it. Okay.
Well, okay.
The focus is your opposition to further development upstream. Now,
But yet he's got a pool and a house in a flood zone.
Correct.
I think we're arguing here. I'm not sure.
No, I don't know if we're arguing. I think he's just saying that, you're the one that's
You're
the
part of the
problem.
problem too. Not that you created it, but you're still part of the problem for all of us downstream.
Well, I'd respectfully disagree. I don't think it's, with that, I'm not part of the problem. We inherited a property that turned out that the stream behavior was not as advertised. And since that time, we inherited this house, and it was, I would call it more of a, a small stream. This stream cannot handle any more water. This stream has eroded a significant portion of my frontage. Okay, it's not my responsibility fully to maintain the stream.
No, but your property line goes to the center line of the stream, as does mine.
I'm sorry?
Your property line goes to the center line of that stream, as does mine. So you are responsible for your side of that stream.
Well, that's not, we could debate that, but that's not what's at issue here tonight. What's at issue is that the conditions at the Bossinger property don't suggest that a dwelling should be built there. It's 100% protected land. The house sits in the floodplain. There's a wetlands buffer. There are wetlands. This is what's at issue here. And the creek as a whole, even upstream areas are being eroded. Our property is being eroded. Peter Dodd's property is being eroded. Others downstream, perhaps not yours,
And
Mike.
so
but-
was mine until I let the vegetation grow back. And I like to see.
Well,
you do the same thing.
we've had a lot of vegetation grow back, but again, I don't think that's the point here. The Silver Lake is experiencing significant sedimentation. That association is responsible for sediment at the bottom of those lakes. So it's a big problem.
Oh, 100% it
exists.
is. And I would take you more seriously if you would allow vegetation to grow up at least a 10.
He's not here for a variance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, all right, all right.
He's
I'm
not here
not-
for a
All right, I'm
variance,
just
though.
expressing my opinion.
No, I understand that, but I don't understand why, well, it's not my
understand.
business, but
All right,
he's not here
I'm
for a
done.
variance.
I'm
The
done.
other applicant.
I
is
understand
here for a
exactly what
variance.
he's saying. Go ahead.
I think well, let's move to the videos. That'll show that if vegetation had been planted, it wouldn't be there anymore. But let's draw your own conclusions. Scott, did you videotape the conditions of the creek on your property over the last 4 years?
I have.
And just so it's clear, are there videos taken during each of the prior 4 years and the current year? So 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021.
Yes.
Okay. For identification purposes, I'll ask Jim to air the videos. It'll start with 2018, which will identify for the record as MAC 36. 2019 will be MAC 37. 2020 will be MAC 38, and 2021 will be MAC 39. So if Jim could air the first video. May he approach, Tony?
Yep.
Tony can, yeah, that's what I was going to ask him to go
Yep.
up and just,
Is that okay?
well, we're upside down now.
We have,
You can go up. Well, let me carry the conversation, Ed, if you would.
Hold on.
should be, yeah. My
One at
daughter's
a
here.
time can
She's,
speak.
the technical expert in our house. So, well, this would be better served if we could see it.
Scott, let me first ask what Mr. Murphy wants you to say. Were you present? Did you take these videos of your property?
I took them, or my daughter may have taken them, my wife, but we were all present in each and every storm event.
And do these videos, are they present to the board the conditions of the property within the video during a storm event?
Yes.
And
I would ask, I'm sorry,
ahead.
John, didn't mean to cut you off, but if there's a way, I have the stick that this is on. If there's a way to flip this around, it would be a more meaningful viewing experience.
Can you give Fred a second? He just ran back to talk to
See if you
Jim.
could do it. Okay.
Perfect. Nice does.
Welcome back. It's been a year and a half since I've seen you. Yes, I did.
No. Yeah. We've been working on you. All right. I'm not making my thing.
I'm going to put on the second video now.
Oh, Jesus. Brings you two. She needs to eat something.
I'm sorry.
She's hungry. Yeah. I understand. I hate that.
Okay, yeah.
Jim to get this video right.
Right.
Girls carrying it without? Girls? What they do, they don't have, nobody has, young girls don't have a purse. They'll have a little clutch. My daughter does. My daughter's little things. What do you think it's 35?
Is she really?
Yeah. Where do you put your brushes?
Oh,
In the car. That's what she likes. Good. Nice guy. He got lucky. Well, he got lucky too, I guess. Him, your husband. On both sides. Nope, I didn't do that. I learned a few things ever. Yes, you're right. A couple times, yeah. Not late. He was good. Yeah. Haven't talked to him lately. Yeah. I did run it. I don't know. We're getting closer. Yeah. Almost. Oh, that was a great. Yeah. Nice. What fun is that? That's right. There we go. Yay. Oh, no. I guess when they filmed it, they turned the camera.
I have these on a memory stick,
Jim,
right side
That
up.
is
They're
safer and
useful,
more
but-
efficient.
what the heck? Would that make a difference if you use his stick? No?
The issue is that it began filming vertically and then changed to landscape mode. So it's playing vertically because that's how it was started. So you'd have to,
Is that the only one?
No, there are 3 others, but
Was like that, but the others were regular. Yeah.
Mhm.
Second video is coming up now.
All right, so these videos are of different storm events in each of the 4 years, current and going back 3 years. Scott, can you identify this video in terms of which year? If it's the second one, would this be 2019?
I'm not certain which order they have in their system. I was not able to put a date stamp on the videos. I could on the pictures,
What are we looking at as we view the video?
but it's one of the 4. So we're looking at a portion of the stream which runs directly across our property.
What is in the foreground, the black material? What is that?
My driveway. Well, I'm not sure which order they could tell me because they're looking at they have it up on their screen. So
Jim, can you see when this video was produced?
For the record, the 4 videos are August 14, 2018,
2018.
August 7, 2019, August 4, 2020, and July 12, 2021.
You can still go through the video, right?
I'm sorry?
You can still go through the video, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's,
Go ahead.
again, we're trying to provide a representative sampling across those 4 years. And this is one of them. And, you can see that this is a fairly, normal rainfall event. And the original banks of this creek this water is significantly over those original banks, flowing across our property, flowing across some portion of Peter Dodd's property and then under Edgewood Road towards Mr. Tritt's house.
Just to orient, if it needs to be, the left portion of the video screen is toward the flag lot parcel and the right is going downstream.
That's correct.
All right.
John, can you say the dates again for the 4 videos?
Sure. August 14, 2018, August 7, 2019, August 4, 2020, and July 12, 2021.
Thank you.
Now this is, this looks like the, well, I'm not sure. But you can see already there's significant water that is coming from upstream of our property. Doesn't start on our property, it starts upstream of our property. Is almost to the base level of the bridge. This is a shot back towards the flag lot property. Going across our property, and it's already going in multiple directions before it rejoins there. We own that property across the bridge, and when it rains, it's not usable. And again, it's continuing in a direction towards Edgewood Road. And what you're seeing also in the green, that's not the banks of the property. This is a flooding stage event, and you can see it continues to just expand as it goes down the edge of our property. Has on multiple occasions, the water has reached the level of our driveway.
Is that your driveway right there in the screen now?
That's correct.
Is the stream going over vegetation as viewed in the video?
Yes,
And now, in this view, it's just feet away from your macadam driveway?
that's right. Heading behind mature trees, eventually that will become an island. As you said, John, this water is over existing vegetation, heading behind trees.
Is that good?
Is that your voice?
That's my voice. Probably one of my daughters.
Can you hold my umbrella for a second? You want to go over there?
This is all existing vegetation and up toward the edge.
That's correct. Okay.
Ed, while we get the other one up, again, it's August 14, 2018.
Here, be careful. Look at this.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You got this going on.
It comes all the way up here.
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
that's actually
This is-
running off from back here.
It comes
Mine.
back up.
That's my wife.
But this is all filled in now.
You can see, I can't stop this here, but the water force is so significant, it's so strong
It's never been
that
this
there's
bad.
a channel where it runs back up, right? Water flows downhill, right? In this case, it sometimes flow uphill because there's just nowhere for it to go. And towards our house, that water here, that bridge will be gone anytime soon, I suspect. This water is significantly over the banks, over vegetation. And this is just a normal rainfall
It's never
event.
been this bad. It has never been this bad.
Is that your driveway in the bottom right portion?
Never.
It is. Mhm.
It's
Yep.
been bad, but I can't believe this. Look at this.
But this is, you can see, this is you have almost, looks like a lake, but this is not a creek from a rainfall event.
Look
This
at
is a
this.
flowing
So the driveway,
river, in my view.
water up the driveway.
It's significant.
This is enough now.
Is it fair to say in comparison, now the water is closer to your driveway than it was in the
I
prior
should not
video?
have to say anymore. Rounding back up the
It could be,
driveway.
you can see it there on the edge,
Look at
but it
this.
has been completely over the driveway on one or two occasions.
I'm afraid of snakes. I won't go up any
But you
further.
can see, this is not a
Think you see
creek. This is
Perfectly insane to my
a
driveway.
very significant volume of water that every time it rains.
Believe we'll have the fourth video.
Yep.
And Mr. Fenningham, again, that last video, what year was that?
We'll provide that information. What we don't have the dates on the video, but let me finish. We have August 14, 2018. We have August 7, 2019.
That was the first video, according to Mr. Majewski.
Well, we're not sure.
No,
Oh, he's saying,
He sent me-
he's saying that. Which
Yeah,
one was
if
the
I
first?
may.
Yeah.
The videos were in order of the date. So the first one that was rotated 90 degrees, that was the video of 8/14/2018.
Okay.
The second video that was all the right side up, that was 8/7/2019. The third video was 8/4/2020. And the very last video was the one from 7/12/2021.
Jim, that's the one that you'll show now?
No, I've showed all four.
Oh, you showed all four? Okay.
This one?
That's what I
I think we saw two.
We saw the other three, part of the first one.
Now, the first one was the one that was rotated 90 degrees.
okay.
And then there were three other videos that were shown.
And you're not able to rotate that 2018 video 90 degrees back?
Let me try it.
What's that?
Well, we Mhm. Mhm.
Well, I thank you. I think what we've done is show, the pictures speak 1,000 words, as we say. So I would move for their admission, the videos in the record. And again, they are MAC 36 through 39.
You gave us the dates. Do you have what the storm event was for each of those? How much rainfall came in?
I don't have the data to present. I can present it at the next hearing.
I mean, he's got a point. I mean, how hard did it rain? It wasn't 3 days in a row. I mean, I'm not doubting it, but
those, what I can tell you is that those were all individual storm events, one-day rainfall. They were not multi-day rainfall events. The July 12th, 2021 date, which some of you, I'm sure, remember, was described as the 100-year flood storm event, right? Well, that was in Ben Salem. It wasn't in Lower Makefield Township or Yardley, where it was reported 1 to 2 inches. So just in case anyone was wondering. But these were individual rainfall events. And as you can see also, the problem just doesn't start just at our property. This problem starts upstream of our property. And but hopefully this gives a sense and helps understand our concern in addition to the actual property conditions of the flag lot.
I understand. I wish we had some more information on these storm events themselves. I got it. Pictures are clear. I have no problem entering in evidence.
Mr. McDonald, I do have a question. How you
Sure.
testified that this is what it looks like every time it rains. Now, what was that more indicative of? A heavy rain event, a moderate rain event, a light rain event, those videos?
Well, certainly, and of course, the rain events, it depends on duration, right? It can rain heavy for an hour and or two, and produce something like that, or it could be something that's more moderate but extends throughout the day. But I would say that they are what I would call routine rain events. Maybe you want to call them moderate in general, maybe heavy, but I don't really.
I think what was requested was, and that will resolve will be by the next time that for you to have the rainfall data, which tells whether it's a 2-year storm or a 3-year storm relative to the curve. So I think that's what we just asked.
We'll present
for
that
at
data.
that next time.
We'll
So
present
we'll have
that
the
data
answer
next
next
year.
time, which will give us
Yeah.
something specific rather than just a description.
All right. We will do that. We have also submitted 35 photographs. I would propose to ask Mr. McDonald if he took these photographs, if he did anything to alter what was in the viewscape, and then kind of scroll through some of them, but ask you to accept in the record all 35, subject to Ed's right to cross-examine.
Yeah, fine. Looks
Okay. So, Mr. McDonald,
I just ask a question because this wasn't clear at the last hearing. Of the 35 photographs, how are they, you designated them MAC 1 through 35, but what did you start with?
well, these are date stamped. So, for example, MAC 001 is dated March 11, 2021. And
I see, okay.
so, and they're segregated into, I can identify that they, MAC 1 through 7 is of the same date, March 11, 2021.
That's fine. So you actually have date stamps
Yes.
on the bottom? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I just couldn't do that for the videos, though I tried. Well, I mean, you've seen them, I think, haven't you? Well, I don't believe I'm belaboring it, but I am okay. Well, if you have any objection to me moving into the record? Yes. Did you do anything to alter what's showing?
That's correct. Myself and other members of my family.
Okay, all right. Well, then I would move into the record exhibits MAC 1 through 35.
Okay.
And if I may, maybe get up there and stand so I can point out certain things. That'd be all right?
Well, we're not going to, do you want to show anything in particular to the board? Is there any particular photograph that you want to emphasize?
Well,
Like, is that how it looks every day, minus a rain event? I think a little bit of explanation is necessary, if
well,
that's all right.
yeah, these pictures were primarily illustrate the erosional effects of the, I'll call the creek behavior, okay, subsequent to rainfall events. And so it's, and that those erosional effects are significant. And and again, just represent the degradation. For example, this photo here, you can see this here. This is mostly a carve out of our actual property. The stream was never this size previously.
These are 2021, March
Right.
of 2020.
This is all sort of erosion of our actual property from these storm events. I mean, I know it because I live there, but that's really the purpose of, this is the front of our house, and these are just erosional carve out where there's been, I would describe as material erosion of our actual property.
This is MAC 5.
Mhm. Same here. Now this is going, this is as you're looking down, if you will, this is going towards the flag lot property, but this is still our property itself. We have what I would just describe as sort of various islands in the creek now. Those were the original banks that have since sloughed into the creek. So the water that you've seen in the other videos cover all of this entirely. And then some. We have, tree branches or tree trunks that will, the flow brings down across our property. We're constantly having to secure contractors to clean things up. You can see here, there are two trees where the stream has cut behind it. Again, slowly just cutting away at the banks.
I would just note also for your consideration, MAC 23. It's a July 2021 photo. It shows that the vegetation that is there is overrun by the stream flow. This is the after the storm event. But you can see by the condition of the vegetation, it's been overrun.
Right. This is simply debris that was dropped out of the flow when the stream began to recede.
That is MAC 8. So again, I think you have those. If we could have those admitted into the record, you can look at them. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Scott.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Do you have anything else you want to advise the board about? In other words, this is your opportunity to explain further if you have any other comments about your opposition.
Well, I do have a few points, if I may. I'll try to make them or get through them quickly. But I thought about the matter at hand. And again, this was never about the Bossingers' right to sell the property. This was never about the deck's right to explore development opportunities if they were to become the actual owner of record. This is about the condition of the property adjacent to our yard. And in that context, I would say that it was clear on one of the prior exhibits, either it was 4 or 7, that there was a narrative that indicated that there was no building envelope that existed on the site. That was not one of our maps, but one of Justin's maps. And that, but yet these lots were put up as buildable lots. And I guess one point is, had greater diligence or analysis, in my view, been conducted by the Bossingers and their advisors early on. We'd been talking with the Bossingers about this property. We had expressed interest in the property, not for development, but for preserving it as open space. We didn't believe it was a buildable lot, and we weren't going to enter into some agreement with them under any other scenario. And so it would have been clear that the buildable lot designation was questionable at best, based upon what we knew at that time, and I think what they knew. But I think it would have been helpful to this process if we started out with a sense that this had a representation that wasn't quite right, and so I think it offered certain sort of complexities to this that might not have been needed. That was point number one. Point number two, I ultimately believe, I personally, as a resident of Lower Makefield Township, that the zoning board is here to protect people, right? Fundamentally, the kinds of decisions that you make, and that the township ordinances were developed, I would argue, in a way to stop this type of development, and to enforce the protection of natural resources, right? Keep what we have. And which is, again, why we expressed to the Bossingers our interest in the property, but for preservation of open space.
When you say expressed interest, you actually asked them to set up a meeting to buy this property and they said no?
No, we've had multiple conversations
And
with
then any
them.
of them were like that, where you actually wanted to buy the property?
We
And you're saying you
expressed,
had a conversation about making it,
we expressed our concern about the characteristics of the property, protection of the land, but our interest wasn't in pursuing development. Our interest was in pursuing open space. We didn't believe it was a buildable lot.
like, sort of got the inclination that you offered to buy this, to do that. Is that what you did? Try to buy the property from them?
Well, we didn't, because I wasn't going to pay the price they were asking for under a scenario that it was a buildable lot.
I think what the chairman is asking is, did you ever put an offer in based on whatever value you appropriated to that property?
No, we didn't. No.
So you have not made an offer to purchase that property in any way, shape, or form.
We did not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Matt.
But again, in my view, it seemed the most appropriate use for the property. But furthermore, again, with all due respect, I think the zoning board's obligation is to protect folks like us, other folks downstream. But I would argue, may not go over very well, but I would argue that would include the decks from building on this property in protected lands and with likely dangerous property conditions under various storm events, as Mr. Fioravanti discussed at the last hearing meeting. I know it's a bit of a twist on the theme, but I offer it anyway. Third point. The plan in March illustrated a dwelling within the floodplain and wetlands buffer zone. And, I didn't speak directly with the decks about this as to whether they thought these were reasonable variances to ask for. And, after all, the ordinances are there for a purpose. And I'll get into that in a minute. But a revised plan was submitted in June, as we all know, and yet the development remains in the floodplain area as illustrated by Mr. Fioravanti in the last meeting. We sort of all wonder, we've all spent a lot of time, a lot of money, months and months of time. At some point, it will come to a stop, right? It will end in terms of dueling engineering maps, if you will. But I do think that for the following two reasons, I think it's important that we consider the last 2 points. One is, I understand that there's a sort of maybe a built-in predisposition by zoning boards to grant reasonable accommodations to applicants. I understand what the term is. I understand how it's used. I understand that it's not an uncommon view, right? And I guess I would say, should similar accommodations, whatever they might be, also not be given to any party who opposes the development, right? I mean, it should be reasonable in my mind. But nonetheless, I think that this board would agree that ultimately unbiased examination of the facts and the circumstances would be expected by any township resident, not just me. And I guess I would also argue that there's been reasonable accommodation granted to this applicant by way of receiving months of time to modify an original plan that still does not meet the tests of buildability or which offer adequate mitigation measures to stop further impacts to my property, the creek, and others in downstream areas. So, given all this, you know, again, I see this as protected land. It's not that I see it, it is. And I see no reasonable basis to grant relief. It seems contrary to the intent of the ordinance. You know, not once have the Decks or the Bossingers expressed any interest in our concerns, any willingness to truly engage in them. And I would say have actually shown some level of disregard for the protections afforded to property conditions at the Bossingers lot, the flag lot. Further, the conditions in the creek are so egregious, as you could see from the videos. And it's clear that this creek cannot handle any more water. It's clear that the vegetation in place, which is significant in some places, does very little to stop the flow and the erosional effects of this creek. And as described by Mr. Fioravanti, the mitigation measures offered by the Decks are overstated and wholly inadequate. Last, in my view, there's just no hardship here, in my view, for the Bossingers or the applicant. They may believe that there is, and but the hardship, I would argue, is ours. As illustrated by the videos, by the pictures, by the engineering analysis performed by Mr. Fioravanti. And I would say, I mean, how can variances be granted to ordinances designed to protect the environment and sensitive ecosystems, knowing that the same protected conditions downstream will continue to severely degrade? Our property has been no doubt harmed by this creek and the surface water flow that it receives, both from properties and from various storm outfalls. As has downstream residents in Silver Lake, our property value's been harmed. Our ability to sell our house, I would argue at this point, is significantly diminished because of the circumstances that we face. So I would just ask that this board consider that in this context, that we've suffered significant hardship because of the conditions that exist in this creek. And this suggestion of additional development, given the behavior of the creek, it just seems like it's something that it doesn't fit, right? Whether it's the lot next door to us or some other property in the future. So for these reasons, I respectfully ask the zoning board to deny the zoning relief requested by the Decks. I appreciate your time and listening.
Thank you very much.
No further questions.
Wait, thank you.
Before Mr. Murphy begins, may I ask a few questions?
Sure.
I'm sure he'll have a whole lot more than I do.
Yeah, you don't mind, do you? Go ahead, Barb.
Mr. McDonald, you purchased your property in 2017, correct?
Correct.
And at the time,
You said you inherited it, didn't you?
No, let me clarify. We bought the property in November of 2016. We did not move in until June of 2017.
but you purchased the property, you did not inherit it from someone.
No, we purchased it.
Okay. And at the time of your purchase, the stream existed across your property, correct?
That's correct.
Could you explain why are there videos of the stream bed flow from 2018, 2019, and 2020 when this application wasn't filed until March of 2021?
We have more than just these 4 videos, but Initially, I think we were extremely surprised by the evolving conditions in the stream from what the seller of our house and other folks had told us about how the stream behaves. So we were taking pictures to document what we're seeing and what kinds of issues that may exist in the future or that may exist with the seller in their representation as to water conditions on this property.
So those videos were taken in anticipation that you might have sued the seller for failure to accurately disclose the stream conditions?
No, I didn't say that. I said that we took them because it was important to document a sort of a contrary representation of the stream, however we might use it. But this problem, once it began, it just progressively got worse, got worse, got worse, got worse. And our concern about the stream conditions, obviously escalated with time.
Did you consider after you learned of the worsening condition of the stream to come to the township and put additional plantings along the stream to prevent the erosion of the stream beds?
Well, again, I did reach out to the township early on. The township engineer, forgetting his name at the moment. Again? Oh, Andrew. He did come out to the house and had a look, and basically the response was, this seems like a you problem.
So you were reaching out to the township as if the township would try to solve the problem for you.
Well, again, I'm not offering any view towards who to solve the problem. What the views I'm offering is that the significant conditions of the creek in the context of additional development along that creek. And here we have that issue in coordination with the fact that the Bossingers property don't provide a platform for building such a dwelling, as we've been discussing. It's protected land, it's in floodplain, wetland buffers, wetland, and I don't know how, and it's really in contrary to the township ordinances with respect to protection of the environment. And that's really, Barbara, my view about this. So no, we weren't scheming. We weren't trying to do anything. We were trying to watch over time. It looks like this in 2018. How does it continue to look over time?
Did you, though, personally try to, or I guess, strategize to put additional vegetation plantings along the portion of the stream bed on your property to help prevent some of the overflow? I'm just trying to understand.
Well, I guess I'm not objecting, but at issue is the flow coming from the applicant's property. Your line of questioning is to say what can be done for the objector's property. And I don't think that's at issue here.
Well, your argument, and I'm just trying to clarify, is that the development cannot occur on the property upstream because that building will exacerbate or worsen the condition on his property. And and Mr. McDonald argued that over the course of the last 4 years, the stream bed has eroded even more. Based on what I've seen, I can't tell if that's just a severe storm event or if it happens all the time. So I'm just trying to understand, if it is worsening on his property, what measures did he take to try to mitigate the damage?
Well, you said a lot there, Barb. You're challenging his objection and opposition based upon what he is doing for his own property to remediate.
Just asking to understand his position.
I think he stated his position. I mean, I'm happy to let you ask him, but he's saying that for all the reasons that Mr. Fioravanti testified, and the A4 says there's no building envelope, that further development upstream will cause further redirection, diversion of the water within the floodplain, that the remedial measures proposed will not be effective, and that the condition that you see now existing will be exacerbated by that additional flow.
And if I may, Mr. Fenningham, your client's position is he's not only opposing this application, but he's taking the strong position that there should be no development of any nature whatsoever on that property. He just testified that there shouldn't be any development on that property.
Well,
And I'm just trying to understand, how is he reaching that conclusion that a lot sitting in a residential zoning district cannot be built at any time? That's all.
well, I think the answer to that question is evidenced in Exhibit A4, which is, again, due to the natural resource ordinance protections, due to the vegetation existing on the proposed flagpole driveway that will be eradicated, due to the rain garden not being saturated and underwater, that there shouldn't be any house located where it's proposed to be located on the flag lot parcel.
But that's not what his testimony said.
Well,
His
I'm not sure I understand why you're challenging. Whether he says nothing should be built there, what he really said was his desire was to have that lot preserved as open space. I think you're turning that into him saying nothing should be built on that property. He's saying what's proposed should not be built on that property.
He did say that.
That's not what your client said. He said, as he understands it, this ordinance was designed to stop development on that property.
And the applicant acknowledges that there's no building envelope based on application of the zoning ordinance provisions. I mean, I don't know why,
No, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's why everybody's here.
I understand, but
Got a building lot that has a negative building area.
I mean, and they're saying that, I'm saying that the ordinance, the zoning ordinance also requires consideration of impact on adjoining downstream
It certainly
properties.
does. It certainly does.
And in addition, it requires you to assess whether there'll be excess runoff onto adjoining properties. And the ordinance also, as Mr. McDonald said, that your ordinance encompasses not just the applicant, but surrounding neighbors and property owners. So I think the logic of the opposition is, if these conditions exist now, and you take the applicant for the presentation it's making, that there's no building envelope, that there shouldn't be anything built as proposed on that lot, because it will exacerbate the conditions. Not a guess, Mr. Fioravanti's testimony to that effect. So,
Yeah, Mr. Funningham, you just clarified something different than what your client said, and I was just trying to understand the scope of the opposition. His testimony clearly said that when you asked him what else did he have to present to the board, he said he understood this ordinance was designed to stop development. So I took that to be he was opposing any type of development on the lot.
well, I'm happy to have clarified that. I don't know what else to say.
No, she's right. That's what he did say. Anywhere.
Well, certainly in the context of what we're here,
I'm just confirming what she said.
I understand.
Exactly what he said.
but Ed objected to me asking a hypothetical. So really at issue is the proposed application and the proposed construction of a particular structure within what Mr. Fioravanti testified to and depicted in his exhibits in the floodplain area itself, not in the buffer, but in the floodplain area. So I would say and clarify that the opposition is based upon those facts, that expert opinion by Mr. Fioravanti, and also the applicant's own plans. Understanding that they're asking for variances, but the point is, are the variances reasonable? Is there a hardship established in that sense? And I think what that's the ultimate issue. I won't belabor.
Well, certainly the property has a hardship of its own.
I'm sorry.
Certainly the property has a hardship of its own.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, the hardship is created by application of the zoning ordinance requirements. So in other words, I mean, we all know you apply those and there's no envelope.
Yeah, that's the hardship.
Well,
That's why we have a zoning hearing
But it's
board.
not the thing that Fioravanti brought out is not the ordinance. It's the existence of natural resources that the ordinance is designed to protect. So it's not the ordinance that's saying you can't do something. It's the condition of the property as we sit here tonight.
Okay.
And
We can
nothing could
move
be
on.
clearer than the flagpole property that is shown in the depictions, photos of Mr. Fioravanti's exhibit that shows all the vegetation that's there now, which we say shouldn't be eradicated. It creates a bowling alley of a macadam lane for the water to flow. Sorry. I still reserve closing argument, okay?
Mr. Murphy, Barbara, you finished?
Okay. Mr. McDonough, I'm Ed Murphy. I represent the applicants, right? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
And I am going to, recognizing it's cross-examination, I am going to review certain things that have been highlighted before, but I'm going to deliberately stay away from challenging you about your theories in terms of whether or not the property's in the floodplain or not. We've already had, the engineers are going to testify to that. I let you testify to certain opinions, and I'm going to stay away from that tonight and try to focus more on the facts for which you're presenting your position this evening, okay? So let's go back to something that was initially asked by Ms. Kirkin to clarify. According to the Bucks County Board of Assessment records, you and your wife purchased this property on November 14th of 2016, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you paid slightly less than $670,000 for the property, correct?
That's correct.
And again, based on the public records, you have a significant mortgage with Wells Fargo that was taken out in consideration of that purchase, right?
Correct.
And at the time that you purchased the property and obtained your mortgage, did Wells Fargo require you to have flood insurance?
They did not.
Why not?
Um,
Can I object and ask what's the relevance of this? We're not arguing compensable harm here.
No, we're not. I'm going to reach the point where we're going to talk about whether or not the property was in the floodplain or not. The absence of flood insurance suggests that somebody thought the property was not in the floodplain, or else they would have required flood insurance.
Which property are you talking about?
His own.
Okay. That's not the property at issue, but
The issue of the location of the floodplain is critical and central to this case. The fact that someone determined that the McDonald property was not in the floodplain and thus didn't require flood insurance is relevant to a subsequent argument.
I don't,
So, Ed, if I may clarify, you're seeking this information to confirm if his argument,
Accuracy of the floodplain designation.
okay, and that's based on his argument that it will impact his property because he's within the flood.
And I have some exhibits we're going to cross-examine that'll delve into that. But
so I'm just raising the point that Ed started by saying he's not going to get into the engineering side.
Yeah.
And now he's going to ask where this floodplain is, which is, well, I
I'm
thought,
going to show an exhibit that you've already presented and just ask him to confirm what that exhibit shows.
so you are going to delve into the engineering presentation.
I'm gonna use
I'm
your
just
words.
asking. I'm asking for clarification because you said one thing and you're doing the other.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe we should wonder why. Okay, so you don't have flood insurance, is that correct?
I didn't say that. I have flood insurance, yes.
So Wells Fargo did not require you to purchase flood insurance. But you subsequently or at the same time acquired flood insurance.
Did not answer that.
He didn't answer.
Answer
that
it now.
part.
I didn't hear the answer.
Subsequent to buying the house, I secured flood insurance for our property.
From whom? Why is he hesitant to answer?
Okay, can we at least get past like
Let him
one or
ask the
two
questions,
questions so we
John.
can see what it's going to?
Selective insurance.
So coming this November, you will have owned the property 5 years, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
not related to property improvements, but home improvements. Have you, in the intervening 5 years since you purchased the property, made other improvements to your home?
Well, I'm not sure what the relevance of that
I'm
question
gonna
is,
get to that.
but,
Answer
or what
yes or
you,
no.
well, let me ask if I can, what you believe are improvements. I'm not sure what's,
Have you replaced windows, roofs, carpets, other types of home improvements that would further confirm your additional investment in your property beyond the $669,500 you paid for?
oh, we've probably improved the pool. We've painted our house in areas. We've
Okay.
redone our, you know, I mean, normal things that you have to keep up with. I think we've done.
Okay. I'm going to mark as, Adam, I'm going to defer to you or Barb about my next. But,
Yeah, this would be A18. Packet.
Mr. McDonald, do you recognize the first page of Exhibit A18? Shows, I believe, your home and its relation to the creek that you spent the evening talking about, right?
That's correct.
And if you look right below the color image, it makes reference to a Google map of this year, correct? 2021? You see
Yes.
it? Right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree that this photograph fairly and accurately represents the condition of your property, location of the house in relation to the stream? It's on the screen as well.
As depicted in this photograph.
Okay. And again, others tonight have asked you that it would appear from this same photograph that the property area in front of your home between the home and the stream is manicured, so that to Mr. Tritt's question and Ms. Kirk's, it appears that the property has been mowed to the edge of the creek, right?
Objection with your use of the word manicured. I'm not sure what you're implying.
Mowed.
Mowed, okay, thanks.
And you'll see,
Do you mow your lawn?
Yes, I mow my lawn, and no, we don't mow to the very edge. We mow within a certain number of feet.
well, we'll get to that, but okay.
Okay. And, well, we'll wait. We'll get to that.
It would appear that, and again, I'm referring to you to the measure that shows as represented by those two dots, one at the edge of the Silver Creek and the other at a point along your driveway that we all saw in your videos tonight, right? And that distance from that point on your driveway to the edge of the stream is 29 feet, right? As it appears on the first page.
Correct, as shown on this Exhibit A18, page 1.
Right. And would you agree with me, Mr. McDonald, that the front portion of your home, the distance between that and the creek is approximately 42 feet? If you know.
Well, I don't know the exact distance.
Excuse me?
I don't know the exact distance.
All right.
What I see is a Google Earth image,
Mhm.
is what I see.
Right. Okay. And that image is also reflected in a wider shot on the second page of Exhibit A18. Okay. It again shows the relationship of your home to the creek. It shows the bridge that was prominent in some of the videos that you showed earlier this evening. And it shows the driveway again that extends from your home parallel at some points to the creek and extends out to Edgewood Road, right? Which is your address because you have frontage on Edgewood, far right of the second photograph. Right?
That's right.
Okay. At the time that you purchased the property in November of 16, if you know, did the property have any stormwater management facilities on it, your property?
How are you defining stormwater management?
I'm talking about, did it have any rain gardens? Did it have any underground ballast? Did it employ rain barrels? Did it include any other type of mitigation measures to manage stormwater?
Not to my knowledge.
Right. And in the intervening almost 5 years since you've owned the property, I understand from your earlier testimony that you have not installed any such stormwater management facilities on your property either, correct?
That's correct.
Right, including, I know you don't want to hear about it, but Mr. Tritt and Ms. Kirk inquired about the fact that you have not chosen, for whatever reason, to consider installing any riparian buffer along the nearly 600 feet of linear frontage that your property maintains along Silver Creek, right?
Well, it's not that,
You objected before, but this is
Well, you're being-
cross-examination, and
you're-
I'm entitled to ask that question.
Well, you're raising an issue of failure to mitigate, which I think is irrelevant to the opposition to the DEX application.
I am raising a question of good faith and whether or not Mr. McDonald is here with clean hands arguing about something where he has taken no steps on his own to mitigate downstream property owners' damage, which he so severely criticized.
So I assume this opposition to any objector is going to be consistent, that everybody should be stopping what's happening upstream. And it's exactly the reason that the McDonald's are arguing about upstream development of their property. I really do object to this line of questioning, attacking the opposition for not doing something to avoid stormwater on their property. When you see the videos that the stormwater that flows overcomes vegetation and creates islands in the stream, so to speak.
You've testified tonight that, and the videos appeared to suggest that in certain rain events, water reached and further down your driveway to a edge would seem to overtop your driveway, right?
that's correct.
Has water ever reached your home?
No, it has not.
Okay, didn't think so. So you've never had any, and according to the Bucks County Board of Assessment records, you have a full basement, is that right?
Mostly full, yes.
Okay, I don't mean full with junk, but.
Yeah, full of junk, but yes,
Well,
we have a basement, yes.
right, and I take it you have not suffered any basement flooding, first floor flooding, any of that kind of stuff, right?
Well, we did experience some water in the basement. This house has probably it's got a 3-tiered sump pump system. So, the main pump and then a backup to that and a backup to that. And there's a reason for that, is because it requires those backup systems because of the rainfall, low groundwater table, et cetera.
Okay. The other several exhibits on 3rd and 4th pages of what we've referred to as A18 show exhibits that all of us have seen before. It shows the relationship of your property identified as 203472 in relation to my client's properties, right? Again, nothing that we all haven't seen. The next page after that just is an aerial that highlights your home, and it also shows your pool in the far corner of your property, correct? Down at the bottom center of the page, you'll see your pool in relation to your house and in relation to the creek as well, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And Ed, is just to clarify, is the blue line, is that the dimension of the McDonald's property? Is that what's on there?
Yeah.
Okay. And beyond that, to the bottom of the page is the trees and the coverage on the flag lot?
Yeah. Passenger's house would be. The next page is a colored exhibit that you introduced through your counsel, Mr. McDonald. And it's on the larger screen if it's easier for you to look at. You know what that represents?
Look at it more closely.
I think you do.
Yeah, I believe it's one of the FEMA maps. Yes?
Right. And the purple is
The purple is, the creek runs within this purple
what's
purple
the
zone.
light blue that encompasses your house, your pool?
That's the designated AE, right? Special Flood Zone Hazard Area that runs through the entirety of our property and onto the Bossinger's lot, flag lot.
So that suggests the entirety of your home and the pool is in the floodplain, right?
That's what this suggests.
Right. And we know that's probably inaccurate because we know that this plan was not based on a field survey, right? Based on a graphic representation, as you've testified, or your expert has testified, right?
Well, objection, the testimony related to the flag lot, not to the McDonald's property. But I
Your
know,
exhibit. Just suggesting that the graphic representation that you are suggesting is inaccurate is in fact inaccurate. And ours is based on a survey, not a graphic representation. And yet FEMA map suggests that his house is in the floodplain.
sorry about that. Your
Typically would be required for flood insurance, right?
your focus is on the McDonald's property? Shouldn't the focus be on the Dex
Focused
flag
on
lot?
the accuracy of the testimony that's been presented. That's all. I'm just,
So you're attacking credibility?
yes.
Okay.
And motivation, as I said earlier.
Oh, I didn't hear you say motivation. Okay. So you're arguing that my client has an ulterior motive.
Yes.
Okay, just so we're all clear.
I don't have any other questions for Mr. McDonald.
Was there an answer to that question?
He didn't
Last
ask,
question.
he was making a statement, really. It wasn't a question.
Okay.
Mr. Murphy was. You want to respond?
Before he does, I do have one quick question, and because I'm just trying to wrap my head as to exactly where all this is at. Is your house known as the one that's designated Tween Brooks? Are you, okay, I'm sorry, whoever's saying something in the background, you can't talk while the stenographer's taking. It's only one person at a time can talk. Are you near that residence?
That's Peter Dodd's residence, and they are an adjoining property owner
Okay,
to the Bossinger's lot.
okay, thank
Well,
you.
yeah. I wanted to clarify something, if I may. It's my understanding from the prior owner of my house that historically they had flood insurance. There are early maps that have dashed lines for 100-year floodplain. Remember, it's not just a line, it's a flood zone area. So the fact of the matter is, I've not seen information to suggest that this map is that far off to depicting a flood zone area that extends onto the Bossinger's property.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When was your house built? What year?
I want to say about 1970.
And assessment records are never incorrect.
Never. They're always accurate.
Always. Not, but fair enough. 1970, 1972. Thank you.
If I could just ask one redirect. So looking at this page that was on the screen, it's part of A18. It shows the coloration of these FEMA areas. Scott, in the bottom right corner, I'm pointing to a structure. Is that the Bassinger's existing house?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
So what is depicted here in whatever the coloration purpose is, that area extends above the flag lot, even into the Bassinger's property.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that question.
So if you look at the bottom right of this aerial,
Jim, Majewski has the cursor.
Yeah.
No, I see, I know, I didn't hear, I didn't. understand.
So the question I was asking, where the cursor is that is that's actually the Bassinger's house.
Yeah.
And the orange and blue is within the Bassinger's property beyond the flag lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
We agree. It is, but we have a survey to define exactly where the floodplain is or isn't on our property.
Good.
It's the whole
Good.
crux of the case.
We presented ours.
I know.
Okay. All right.
One last thing. Are you a member of the Mayfield Lakes Community Association?
The proposed house is right here.
Thank you.
Did the board members have any questions of Mr. McDonald?
No. Right, that's what I said. No, because this is their lot. The proposed house is
Excuse me?
down further.
Of the,
Oh, that's the flag.
Yeah, right.
Any other questions from the board for Mr. McDonald?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions,
not tonight.
Mr. Murphy?
No,
Guys?
nothing further tonight.
Okay, that being said, I guess I'll open up the public comment. If there's anybody in the audience that wants to come up and say something, come on up. And you'll have to get sworn in, your name and address. Please give him the microphone. He needs a. Yes.
You want my name and address? My name is Howard Hunter. I live at 15 Orchard Way. Howard Hunter, 15 Orchard Way. I also am the president of the.
Mr. Hunter, let me swear you in first, okay? You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I'm also the president of the Makefield Lakes Community Association. And I don't know, did you all get a copy of the minutes from our meeting?
Yeah, we received those.
Okay. You know, as a board,
As the solicitor, the attorney for the township, when I received a copy of what you sent to the township, I did circulate a copy to Mr. Murphy and to Mr. Fenningham, so they both have it.
Okay. Thank you, Barb.
okay, thank you. I just wanted a couple of points. Back in 1998, the board, the association paid for dredging of the lake, which at that point cost somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000. Subsequently, the lake has continued to fill in, the upper lake, and we have one of the principals of Princeton Hydro has basically roughly estimated that it would cost over $1 million to do it again. And we certainly do not have that kind of resources. This is a volunteer association which is responsible for the taxes and the upkeep of the lakes and the areas around the lakes. There's an open space area. This open space area and the lakes has been a natural resource for the township. People from all over come and fish in the lakes, and we are responsible for it. One of the things that concerns us is that this approval, if this is approved, it will open the door for others' approvals. And, you know, at a certain point, it's just our lake is going to fill in, and it's going to ruin a natural resource because we do not have the funding to fix this. And as the videos demonstrated, these storms, and if you're really interested, I would suggest going Thursday because we're going to have significant rain Wednesday and Thursday. You can go look for yourselves at what happens. And it all ends up in our lake. And just adding another property that puts more erosion of the soils, it all ends up in our lakes. And this is detrimental to our lakes, and we're responsible for the upkeep of them. So as a board and as a membership of, I'd say approximately 90 homes around the lakes, we are opposed to this development as it stands. And we also would request party status if it needs to go any further. That's it.
Fine. You
Thank
granted
you.
party status.
And I had previously objected when that
You did.
topic was
I'm going to allow
approached previously. I understand.
association is going to have party status. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes. That's what I think Mayfield Lakes Community says.
Right. Makefield Lakes, is that what it's called?
Yes, Makefield Lakes Community
They
Association.
want to have party status.
They will.
Yes.
Thank you.
You have to give, do you know, you need information on that? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If I could just follow up on behalf of the McDonald's, I believe Mr. Hunter invited the board to do a site visit, and we have no objection to that request, that it be inclusive of the record, and we would support such a request. Bring an umbrella, though, I think.
Anyone else?
Somebody else want to come up? Grab the microphone, please.
State your name and then Bill will swear you in.
My name's Joanne Christ. I live at 840 Edgewood Road, downstream from the property in question. I do. Christ. My husband Jack and I are 40-year residents of our home. We live, the Silver Lake Stream is on the east side of our property. Along with the detrimental impact to the wetlands, along with the detrimental impact to the wildlife, we have two main concerns. The first being the erosion and flooding that's occurring and getting worse year after year after year. During Superstorm Sandy, there was erosion under a tree along the creek that caused the tree to come down on our house, causing $56,000 in damage to our roof and $12,000 in tree removal. 2 years ago, we had to spend another $9,000 in tree removal from the creek. I think, Mr. Solar, you asked earlier if somebody knew the rain amounts that caused this type of flooding. On May 18th of 2018, I'm sorry, May 27th of 2018, there was significant flooding, and I looked it up on the web last week, and that flooding was caused by 1.5 inches of rain in an hour, which occurs all the time around here. We have flooding on that creek several times a year. Back in 1991 or 92, we had 10 inches of rain in 3 hours. I don't know if anybody here remembers it, but people lost their cars. There were bridges washed out. The roads were taken out around here. We had water on the front threshold of our front door at that time. The water.
Wasn't that the year that we lost a resident? A Lower
Yes.
Makefield man died
Yes,
in
on
the
the golf
flooding
course.
on the
Yep.
golf course, right?
Yes, and that night, you saw Mr. McDonald's pictures of the water getting close to the top of the bridge on Edgewood Road, but the water was well over that bridge on Edgewood Road that night. The other concerns that we have are the crowding of properties or crowding of buildings on lots that really, as far as we're concerned, shouldn't be developed because they're in a floodplain. And we just think it sets a precedent when you have crowding for other people to do the same thing, and it decreases property values. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Helene Hartman. I certainly do. I live on Countess Drive. I live in very close proximity to the lot we're talking about. I got the letter that was sent out. Thank you. I want to request party status as well. And I have some concerns. The wetland buffer has been in existence for many years with good reason. And one thing I don't hear much about is, has an environmental study been done to ascertain short and long-term effects? And how do we correct any negative impact on the area, such as flooding or erosion? I mean, we're not immune to more storms like the recent ones, nor are we without heavy snows that will melt into the creek. Do the plans look at the unusual as well? Because the unusual is becoming more normal. And the actions that we take are going to affect all the homes along the creek and possibly other homes in the area. The petitioners have outlined a water catchment system, and I've heard a lot about that tonight. The first question I have is it effective? And if so, is there a way to guarantee that will continue to be effective? Will it be maintained to remain in place? I know you talked about border trees. Well, I've seen trees come down because the ground gets wet and they fall over. I've seen them in the creek. I've seen them in the back of my property. And another thing is, if the house is sold, will subsequent owners be liable to do the same thing? How will we make sure that over
Property-
time?
The
Okay.
property it's the property that gets the variance, not the
Okay.
homeowner, so the
Thank
property
you.
stays with
Thank
the
you for
property.
clarifying that. Well, and also, what is the impact on wildlife? Because the deer go along the creek. I live along the creek as well. They're already in overabundance, and they travel the creek for good reasons. That's where they have their babies. So will there be more incursions into the yard if they can't travel there? I have a neighbor who saw, I don't know if it was a 2 or 3 point buck on her porch this week, eating from pots on her garden, on her step. Are we going to see more of that? And that concerns me. And I have to ask a stupid question, but who wants to be host to a buck during rutting season? I mean, if they're coming into our areas, our homes, are we going to see something like that? The number of variances and changes are staggering to me. I'm just a regular old granny in the neighborhood, but it's staggering that we've had to make so many accommodations. And my question is, are we approaching the slippery slope that will generate more requests of this magnitude in the future? I purchased my home for its beautiful woodland setting. We put large windows in so that we could view the area. We put other improvements in. And now I wonder if we start having so many variances of this type, what will it do to my value of my property? You know, will buyers accept and pay it for its worth? I will probably lose money if this continues to happen. And would others that have 2 lots with added side yards subdivide and ask for variances? What happens then to home values? By the way, my property does have 2 lots. I would never consider selling them because I want to preserve that property. I don't know how many more people have 2, but it's something that certainly should be considered. In addition to the reasonable accommodations that should be afforded to petitioners, don't current residents deserve consideration as to our concerns and the impact on preserving our environment, our home values, and the quality of life? And I don't know if the Board of the Township Supervisors are in support of this or not, but okay, they are not?
I have been appearing in opposition to the application.
Okay, thank you. I think that that's significant and should be considered. And in closing, we have rules and regulations set for the express purpose of keeping wetlands, buffer areas, homes, properties, and residents protected. I oppose this request. And thank you so
Did you
much.
say you requested party status?
I did, yes. I live right, Helene Hartman, Hartman, 596 Countess Drive. You're certainly welcome.
Thank you very much. Objecting to the party status, I'm going to get her party status. How close, where does she live? Oh, yeah, I thought she did. So she's within the, yes. There you go.
Lisa Van Strat, 35 Homestead Drive, Yardley. V as in Victor, AN space STRHA.
And do you solemnly swear testimony about to give will be the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
I just wanted to speak to the volume of water on the creek. I moved here in 1997. We purchased our house, and every now and then the creek would overflow its banks. I'm upstream from where the proposed property is, and it would just be amazing because when I tell you the creek is a small little babbling brook, and then all of a sudden a storm comes and it's like overflows the banks, and you're like, what the heck is happening? Our house sits fairly back. We have a lot of property. Before that, it's pretty deep, but it used to be once in a while. Now, every time it rains, not a little sprinkle, but you get the strong storms, or if it rains for a day, it's constantly overflowing. So I just want people to understand that this is a major problem with the water, and I can't imagine what it's like downstream, or then if things become added on where it's taking away from water absorption or anything else that's going on, because I don't know what happened. I looked at the trends for rain and precipitation and trends going forward, and it said something like in the United States, 0.20% per decade of rainfall. It's increasing each year. So it's only going to get worse. And then I don't know where variances and things like that given to people like up creek, which is why we're getting so much more volume down creek. That I don't know. But I'm just here to testify that our banks are consistently overflowing with rain that it should not be overflowing from. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Edward Bach. I'm at 598 Countess Drive, directly behind this property, and I'd like party status. Bach, B-O-O-C-K. Okay. So I moved here probably about 14 years ago to this property from a property in Falls Township that was also on a creek. So I'm pretty familiar with creeks in the story. And to Mr. Murphy's point earlier, when I bought my house in Falls Township, which was probably from me to that wall to the creek, I did not need flood insurance for my mortgage. About 3 years after that, I got a letter from my mortgage company saying that I needed to get flood insurance. So I don't know that you're automatically required to. Sometimes they do studies or they do whatever, but I didn't need to get it even though I was in a flood zone. But what I had to do then is I had to get an elevation survey to show that even though I fell within that range, my house was high enough up so that it was out of the flood zone. And it was a whole process that we had to go through to do that, to get that letter from FEMA to say that I didn't need flood insurance for my mortgage. And it started with that elevation survey. So the point being, whether or not your mortgage company required you to get flood insurance or not up front is kind of a moot point. I'd like to also state something that, they spend a lot of time talking about other things other than the variance they want. And it just reminds me of a magician. Like a magician's getting you to look over here while he's pulling a trick over here. And I feel like we're getting get on a magic show by this. And I got a PowerPoint presentation. I'll kind of get into that a little bit more. To the point, I did offer to purchase that property from Mr. Bausinger. One time I was in the back because I had some dead trees and I was putting a shed up. So I was cutting the trees and I saw him on the other side. He came over to me, and this was about 10 years ago. So he's been trying to sell this property for about 10 years. He came up to me and he goes, "This property is buildable. Are you interested in blah, blah, blah," and tells me all this stuff. He's got an engineering firm in Fort Washington that says it's buildable. I said, "Look, you know what? I'm familiar with creeks. You're in a floodplain, you're in a buffer area, you got all kinds of problems with getting this building on this property. I don't think it's buildable. I'll give you $5,000 or $10,000 for it just to preserve it. And he goes, no, you're crazy. This property is worth $150,000. And that's where the negotiation ended. Because to me, I told him, you got 4 people that are interested in that property. It's the Dodds, the McDonald's, myself, and Helene Hartman, who's right there. That's it. Because everybody knows that it's got a non-buildable envelope, and people that actually worry about the environment and the conditions and wildlife and stuff like that won't build on that. Mr. Murphy claims that the decks are good stewards of the land, quote unquote. I've seen no evidence that they're good stewards of their land. Their initial plan was so bad, it didn't even have a water mitigation plan, I don't think, in it. I mean, I almost think it's like a strategy Mr. Murphy's implying to show that they're trying to come closer to the board by throwing out a ridiculous plan and then coming in with the real plan. That's just my theory. I'm not saying anything about it. To answer his question about basements flooding, my house, I don't know if you have a map, but my house is very far off the creek and my basement's flooded at times. It's just the water level is high. And when you get those big storms, that water comes underground, comes rushing to the creek, and it causes a lot of problems. The neighbors across the street from me that sit up on a hill, their basement is flooded. So these are houses that are far, far away from the creek. This is a valley, this area, it's a valley that comes from basically the baseball and softball fields down into this creek from Makefield Elementary. That's all the water that's flowing in here. There's no denying that there's flood and erosion problems with this. And there's been a lot of talk about whether somebody mows to the edge of the lawn or whether they don't. I can get you photos where the naturalized land is being eroded just as bad as the stuff that there's grass mowed to the edge of the creek. There's erosion everywhere, from roll-up where it crosses over Ramsey or roll-offs. You can go there and there's trees that are just falling down because the roots are getting eroded out from underneath them. So I think the overall concern is if this project's going to add water to the creek, it's going to increase the damage. I think that's when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, that's the case. And I don't think they've proven where they've decided that it's not going to add water to the creek. I think their engineer testified to an extent that he thinks that this project is actually going to reduce water from the creek and take water out of the creek, which I don't think anybody that lives on the creek really believes that. So, and there was a lot of question about the dates on videos and stuff like that. We're going to get 6 inches of rains tonight. We're going to be lucky if Edgewood Road doesn't flood. We can have plenty of videos for everybody at the property because everybody that's opposed to this surrounds this property. We're the people that are going to be this guy's neighbors. Why he would want to put himself in a fishbowl around people that think this is a bad idea and try to raise a family or something just seems like a bad idea, crazy idea. So I just wanted to review the facts so I understand things myself. And I'm sorry if I'm excited. I'm passionate about this.
Fine.
So my understanding is this lot has a negative building envelope, correct? There's plenty of, this property was listed for a while. He's been trying to sell it. He's tried to sell it to me 10 years ago. There's plenty of developers in this community that passed on it. So you kind of have to wonder, why would other developers pass on this if there was an opportunity to turn a buck? There's no existing flag lot there today, right? It's 2 separate lots, correct? There's no flag lot there today, nor has there ever been a flag lot. I am saying it. As a citizen, I want to understand what's happening. So here's the issue that I have as a resident of the community. You got a lawyer and engineers and all talking up here, and the community is down here trying to figure out what they're talking about. So I'm trying to get an understanding so that I'm kind of on the same level with you guys. So the wetlands buffer is 100 feet. Is that correct? I'm just going to read this off, and if I'm wrong, somebody can tell me.
I don't have the plans in front of me.
Okay. The decks are not residents of Lower Makefield. The decks are not the current owners of the property. They just have an agreement to purchase it if we throw out our code book. There's no, I mean, I haven't heard a hardship. I mean, you're saying that the property has a hardship, but I mean, it seems like the decks could walk away from this deal tomorrow with no hardship to them whatsoever. I think they're putting a hardship on us, like in the community by doing this. The Lower Makefield Board of Supervisors is against this request. The Makefield Lakes Association is against this. They represent 90 homeowners. 4 adjacent property owners are against this, 3 of which have asked for party status, one of them which is likely to ask for party status. And really, I mean, we haven't even heard from the decks, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, the only person that we've heard of that's talked for this are paid representatives of the decks with a strict mission. So I do have one question. One of my neighbors that wanted to testify, he teaches at Temple University and he teaches on Tuesday night, so he can't make it. Is there anything we can do so that he can get his opinion in?
Get a substitute teacher.
Bring somebody else in? All right. Another question I have is, can reasonable accommodation be made at the expense of surrounding properties?
What was that?
Can reasonable accommodation be made for the decks at the expense of surrounding properties?
I'm not understanding what you mean.
So basically, we're saying that it's a negative buildable envelope that they're trying to build on.
Right.
So, and I'll get into it. I think it's going to damage several things to me. So I'm wondering if it's okay for me to be damaged and to favor them. So I'll get into that more in my presentation. So last meeting, there was a question about an exemption for the water mitigation. What is the process to get the exemption?
There was an exemption if it's under 5,000 square feet. I don't think that's correct.
I don't think the board is qualified to talk about that.
Yeah.
So do they get are they getting the exemption? Have they requested the exemption?
That's not something for the board.
We would do.
Who makes that decision?
Mr. Book, it gets handled through the township, through the engineers. They're the ones that look at the plans and ascertain under stormwater management what gets applied and what doesn't get applied.
Okay. Because all the water mitigation numbers that I've seen are based on them getting getting the exemption. So if the exemption hasn't been granted, I haven't seen any real.
The only thing this board has the ability to judge on or to rule on is what the applicant is requesting variances on.
Okay.
Outside of that, we have no jurisdiction.
Okay. Very good. I think you asked Mrs. Kirk what the shape of the house was, and I think the answer, or the shape of the roof was, and Mr. Murphy's answer was, Mr. Deck is an architect. And I don't think we ever got an answer on what it was. Do we know?
Sorry, I don't remember the specific question. So.
That was one of your first questions. Do we know what the shape of the house, like what the shape of the roof is?
That doesn't matter right now.
Okay. Do we know what kind of gutters are going on this house?
Again, we don't know the design of it right now.
Okay.
You're way ahead of yourself here. You want to show your presentation? Is that what you're trying to lead up to here?
No. I'm getting there. I'm just saying that this whole presentation by Mr. Deck's presentation has been filled with mistakes and flaws. I mean, they didn't even get the right variances requested the first time around. So, I mean, I kind of want to understand what they're actually doing and how well thought out this plan is.
Well, he ain't the only person to make mistakes in the very beginning. Everybody can't be saying that he made mistakes in the beginning. It happens all the time to revise their plans and using that against it. I'm not making any decisions, but a lot of people have said that. That's got nothing to do with it. They revise the plans all the time.
Well, we just spent a lot of time talking about the neighbors.
Well, you're spending a lot of time too.
So, are they, and I'm assuming they don't have what, but the answers will be what wildlife lives on this property and what hardships are in the appeal. All right, we can jump into my presentation now.
I don't, where this thing even
Yeah,
came
if
from.
the township has it, then we can have it sent out.
All right. So after your last meeting, this was the first thing, and I thought this was relevant. Every bit counts. I mean, the argument is that I hear kind of in a nuance from Mr. Murphy is that it's a small project. It's not going to have a big impact. Well, to me, everything has like, every little bit adds up to a big impact. You can go to the next one, Jim, please. So this is basically what my concerns are. I got environmental issue concerns. I got wildlife concerns. I have my property values I'm concerned about and my quality of life. You know, our concern as a community and all my neighbors, our concern isn't your everyday storms. It's the major storms that come around 2 to 3 times. We're concerned that their mitigation system isn't going to handle that and in fact is going to throw additional waters into the creek. I believe that if you throw additional volumes of water into the creek, you're going to increase the damage downstream. You're going to increase the amount of sediment that ends up in the lakes, and it's going to continue to flow down.
So this is just a concern you have. You're not an expert on this or his design or anything like that.
Well, I can tell you, like, just common sense, just by watching.
I know the common sense part.
Well, just watching your presentations, every time you guys have like some kind of water mitigation plan, it's at the lowest point of the property, and this one happens to be at the highest point of the property. So, like, I don't really understand. So this is the creek that we're talking about. It starts up here by the softball fields. It comes down. This is supposed to be a lake here that's reflected. All this property around here is open property that could be developed, and essentially. But that's not a lake. That just collected a bunch of sediment, so now it's more or less like a swamp. So the creek comes down here. This right here is about where the properties are that are affected. This is Edgewood Road. That's in caution tape because you could see from that video that we had about this much space before Edgewood Road flooded. And the key about Edgewood Road is your fire department, your protective services, your ambulance are all on one side of Edgewood Road. If that road floods, it diminishes their ability to get to the other side of Edgewood Road for emergency services. So then it goes in. These are your Silver Lakes here. And you can see this is a train track that goes here. So it goes through Yardley Country Club. It goes down into the canal, and then it goes down into the canal and eventually into the Delaware River. So that's the flow of the water. So this is where the property is here. So all these people here get affected by this development in one way or another. That's the impact of this property, this development, that it could be. It's not like you have a few houses that are together, and if the water rolls off, it rolls off onto one person's property. That water that rolls off just continues to go all the way downstream and affects all those homes. Okay, next one. So this came out from Lower Makefield today. It's basically a public service announcement. Please see the following notice for a flash flood watch. Questions this. This is what the link was. It's a thing from Chief Caluzzi, basically saying we're expecting 6 inches of rain. 6 inches of rain is a significant event, I think we can say. And I'll get into like where the problem with what I see in the non-expert opinion in a common sense type way, the problem is with Justin's plan. All right, let's go to the next one. So these are more recent tweets from Lower Makefield Township that they're putting out to the public. This one right here, specifically, it's June 17th, which is my birthday. I looked at this as a gift from the township for me. It basically says, it implies what the importance of wetland buffers are. And it says, if waterways run through your land and you're not familiar with stream buffers, they're a natural solution for cleaner water and healthier land. Reduced erosion, cleaner water, favorable conditions for wildlife, and rich landscape. This property that they want to build is entirely on the wetlands buffer area, except for a little tiny corner of it. So to build on something that the township is saying is so important to all these reasons here doesn't make sense to me as a resident. This right here is like MS4 pollution reduction plan. I think that's some federal thing where you have to reduce sediment out of your waterways. And I think the township is spending a lot of money to do that in other areas. So these are things that the township is publicizing. Okay, next. So again, just more stuff on flooding from the township, their Twitter handle. More, and there's plenty of these. I picked out 5 of them. I could be doing these all day because it's such a big issue in this township that the township emphasizes it through their social media channels. Don't trash the river. That's where we get our drinking water, as I showed before. This property goes into the Delaware River via the canal, via the lakes, via everything. Okay, next one. More. Flooding causes more damage than any other weather event. FEMA's flood insurance program. So this is what the township is communicating to its citizens, and this is what they're trying to ignore. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So this is where I find this an offensive move. This is when I was talking about the magician's trick. It's a 100-foot buffer, right? This is the 100-foot buffer right here. And you can see basically the entire footprint of the house is in the buffer area. This one is the one that Mr. Murphy spent all his time talking to, which shows a 50-foot buffer area. The difference is it shows the house completely outside the buffer area. It's misleading and it's deceitful. And I'll give you an example where that actually came true. I went to this EAC meeting on 8/11/2001, and one of the members of the EAC, which is the Environmental Advisory Committee, actually said when he was presenting to the other members that this plan had the house just a few feet outside the wetlands buffer area. So it was an effective tactic where it even fooled our EAC into thinking that they're not in the wetlands buffer area, they're outside of it. Which that tells me all I need to know about the person that's making the possession when they do these little tricks like this. So I think that this, because it's factually inaccurate, should just be tossed out of the record completely. But that's neither. But this is the take. I mean, this is, to me, this is what they spent all their time talking about. Just like he spent all his time talking about Mr. McDonald's property, instead of telling us the strengths of his case to build on that property, he spent his time attacking a neighbor that his client is going to have to live next to if he's successful. Next one. When was this photo taken? Okay. He wants to know when everybody else's photo is taken. I can tell you the two things about this photo. It's inaccurate. This tree, like, I don't know how old this is, but it's inaccurate. This tree right here doesn't have a leaf on it. It's completely dead. But he wants to object to members of the community showing videos of the creek overflowing because we don't know what the date is. But he'll put a date, he'll put up there something like that and not tell us when the date was, when it was taken. Next photo. Yeah. And we don't know when it was taken. Right. So this is something that there's a technical question that I don't understand. They requested 7 variances initially, and then it got dropped down to 4. So these were the eliminates one. They're not building in they're not filling in the floodplain. So then 3 of the original variances were based on flag lot size, if I'm not mistaken. 2 of them got eliminated. 1 of them didn't. The one where the pole section is too thin. It's not wide enough. That one stuck, but the other ones got eliminated. So the best that I can understand is it's what's the term they call it? The existing non-conforming lot. So my question is, if they're claiming that for the backyard lot, the big lot in the backyard, do we need to apply that same standard to the long, narrow lot to see if that's able to be built on? And the reason why I say that is because there's a huge chunk of the driveway that's on that particular lot. So if we're applying a standard to the main yard and the backyard, whatever that standard is, it should be applied to the side yard lot as well, in my opinion. So, and the other one is they're only requested 22% disturbance in the wetlands buffer area, which is over a fifth, which is a significantly large number to disturb it. The wetlands buffer area from the township's post basically has those things to protect it. It cleans the water, prevents erosion, gives the wildlife a place to go. Nobody would eliminate like 20% or 22% of their insurance. The other way of looking at that is 95%, roughly, 95% of the footprint of the house is on the wetlands buffer area. So there's 2 ways of looking at everything, right? The 22% is just the side yards and stuff like that. 95% is in the wetlands buffer area, which I imagine that's a code for a reason, that it's well thought out. It's just not an arbitrary code that we adopted. I know that they made a point that every township has different codes, and they're welcome to go to whatever township they want. I encourage them to do that. But in Lower Makefield, they're dealing with a 100-foot wetlands buffer area. Go to the next one. So here we go. My first one, the environment, flooding. I think it's a universal concern for everybody that's familiar with it. Creek damage, the erosion to it. I feel like this is going to add water to the creek, which is going to cause further erosion, further problems downstream. The sediment in Silver Creek, I got concerns about chemicals. What if they decide that they want to fertilize their lawn and it gets washed into the creek? What if they decide that there's too many mosquitoes, which there are because there's a swamp directly on the other side of them. There's tons of mosquitoes there, and they want to start putting the mosquito treatment on the floor, on the grass, and it gets washed into the river or washed into the creek and downstream. I mean, these are all things that if you wanted to approve it, they'd have to be restricted on what they could use on the lawn. So the other thing that's interesting about creek from all my time living on a creek is they're not static. They change. The flow of them changes. A gigantic rock falls out, erodes out of the creek. It falls into the middle of the creek moves around it. It's always changing. The problem they have with this property, and I'll have pictures later, is they've mowed their lawn all the way down to the creek. I know. All right. I'll do my best to finish. I'll have to finish later, I guess. So here's their side yard right here. You can see all the vegetation. Here's the other side right here. You can see they got two inlets there. So if they build a driveway there and they slope the driveway towards the street, all that additional water is going to go right into that inlet, right into the creek. So, and this is what I found. Jackie Hillgroup, who's the real estate agent, she has buildable lot on the sign. I mean, I think she forgot to put negative building envelope or put negative buildable on the other sides. Okay, next. So this is the side yard. So now you're seeing what we're dealing with. This is what they didn't put in their presentation because they didn't want you to see what it actually was. When you're watching a presentation, a lot of times it's not what you see, it's what you don't see that you need to pay attention to. So you can see that this is all kinds of erosion here, down here. This is the outlet to the lot. I think it's a 36-inch pipe that goes all the way up to Makefield Elementary. That comes right here. That's a whole lot of water. And their plan has to fill this pipe with more water. So you can see the erosion here. You can see this tree right here, which is about to fall, which would be considered a hazard anywhere else because it's all eroded at the base. So that tree is getting ready to fall over the creek, which is going to block the creek and cause upstream flooding. So either the current owners or the future owners need to resolve that. One of our neighbors made a comment, and he was a few houses upstream. So I think Justin said, this doesn't impact you. That tree falls into the creek and it floods upstream and it restricts the flow of water, goes upstream. We don't know if it's going to impact him or not, unless Justin wants to give me an opinion, but he don't want to answer my questions. So we'll move on. So this is their backyard. Deer. I see about 5 to 10 deer in their backyard where they want to build a house every single day. So here's their lawn here, and you can see the lawn's mowed all the way to the edge to the point where the lawn is eroding into the creek here. So you can see all that there. Okay, next one. So here's another shot of their yard. Here it is, more erosion. This is on my side of the creek down here. You can see this. This is naturalized. This is eroded just as bad. It's a little bit higher, but there's still plenty of erosion right here where it's naturalized. Naturalizing the property is a good step, but it's by no means a solution to the problem. The problem is there's just too much water. And what I was taught when I was growing up is you control what you can control. This development is something that we can control. If somebody wants to put a shed on their property and they have the property, like the impervious surface left in the property, we can't control that. There's certain things we can control and we can't control. This is a controllable issue. All right, so the next one. So let's go huge picture because they want to minimize everything. Tree removal contributes to global crisis. We all know this is common sense at this point, right? Trees remove carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. So we can say it's only a few trees that they're cutting down. It's only this, it's only that. But if everybody had that attitude, then it would be a problem. So this is just a small issue with this plan. Does Lower Makefield want to be contributing to global crisis, or do they want to take a stand and say, you know what, there's just too many problems with this deal. Let's just not do it. They can find somewhere else to live. So what do trees do? So you got the Lorax there. You know, I'm just curious. I know that it looks like on their plans there's going to be 5 or 6 trees cut down, at least full size, mature, big trees. You saw the canopy on there. I don't think they even understand what kind of trees they're cutting. People think that when these trees that are in this area, in the fall the leaves fall and that's it. There's a lot of hickory trees back there that in the springtime they're dropping these little things that look like caterpillars that get in everything. They drop nuts all year, and they drop and then they drop their leaves. So here's a little research I did. A mature tree can drink 50 to 100 gallons per day. That equates to 18,000 to 36,000 gallons annually. That's sucking up that groundwater. That's sucking up that rainwater. All that water from those trees that are going to get cut down is going to migrate its way into the creek. It's not included in their mitigation numbers. It's probably not legally responsible for it. But the reality is that water is going to go somewhere. Those thousands of gallons of water are going to end up somewhere when those trees are cut down. Jim, can you go back a little bit? So the other thing that's interesting is I got a big tree in my front yard, and when it's pouring down rain, I can go stand under that tree and not even get wet. I walk out my front lawn, right on my front sidewalk, completely dry. Everything around's wet. All that water gets absorbed into the tree. It gets stuck on the leaves. It gets stuck into the bark. These trees are collecting this stuff. Then there's fine roots near the surface. All that's going to be lost with these removed trees. That's not in their calculations. This is real water that's going to end up in the creek and cause problems downstream. That just needs to be considered. Next, Jim, thank you. Here's something from the EPA. Soak up the rain, trees help reduce runoff. They're talking about removing trees. The current trees that they're going to remove are helping to reduce runoff. If you assume they cut those trees down, that reduction of those trees that are there is lost. It's not. Next. So here's their mitigation calculations. So a trench out of 2.6. New trees, existing canopies. I believe Mr. McDonald has trees on his property already, so he has some of the mitigation tactics that they're presenting. This doesn't reduce water. These are already there doing that. This is what I call is you throw enough stuff against the wall and you hope something sticks. That's what this plan is. So in the interest of time, if you look at the numbers, the rain garden is the plan. 128. That rain garden fails, the plan fails, everything gets damaged. And it's 197% because you kept on saying 200%, 200%, but you cheat in your favor. I get it. That's fine. So that's my point. I don't think this rain garden is going to work. Okay, let's go. I got plenty. We can. Okay. Oh, that's fine. No. I got more. Trust me. I've watched. Yeah. I've watched all your meetings. I understand about water and trees. Well, I mean, we can. Right.
Mike's not on. It's going to flood everywhere. So it's not just going to be there. My house is going to flood too.
it's
I got your
absolutely.
point.
Absolutely.
All right. I just want to thank you very much. If you want to continue next week or when are we going to do? We got to make another meeting for this.
Yes, so let me just pull up the list. I think the day the most people were available is the 29th of September. We can't do it the 14th because the Board of Supervisors is moving to the 14th from the 15th, because the 15th is Yom Kippur. The next week, we have our regular scheduled meeting, and there's no other available times that week. So the 27th, the week of the 27th, we have most available time. And based on the availability of the attorneys and the engineers, it looks like the 29th is the day. I think Pam is unavailable that day, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not available on the 27th. I am available on the 30th.
And I think,
29th appeared to be the best day for,
Oh, I'm not available on the 29th.
yeah, and I think Vince Fioravanti is not available on the 30th. And since we need to have his cross-examination, and I think he's not available the 27th either. But I think, Mike, you're available. Jim, Pete, Tony, Matt.
on what day, 29th or?
Yeah, meaning so we could still have a full,
Can Jim rule up if he hasn't been here for every meeting?
yes. I mean, as long as he familiarizes himself with anything that he's missed, goes through the minutes of the video, since we have that, that would be fine. So my suggestion would be the 29th. Unfortunately, Pam will not be here, but I think that's the only date that works.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion for that, Matt?
I'll make a motion to continue to September 29th.
For a second?
Second.
Mr. Bach,
For cross-examination, any redirect, and then additional public comment. Correct, I'd imagine you'll have rebuttal testimony from Justin.
we're going to let Mr. Bach, I'm sorry, yeah, finish his presentation
Then you could have cross.
without
of
mocking us out.
Vince.
No problem. Thank you very much. That's,
Gotta vote on it.
we got to vote on this.
Did you have a question?
She won't be here on the 29th.
I guess if there's a vote, I think if there's a vote on the 29th, then I will not be present.
If there's not, then, and it continues and she's here at the next one, she could.
Can we do it the week before?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine we won't, just
won't.
from the fact that we still have a decent amount of
There's a
public
lot
comment.
go.
You're
These
going to
guys
have
are gonna do 'em
cross-examination of Vince, you're going to have, you're still going to have Justin testifying again. So if I was a betting man, I would say we were not concluding.
I'll take that bet. All right. We had a second. We had discussion. All those in favor of making, moving a special meeting on the 29th of September, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Anything else? Not asking you, Fred.
Motion to adjourn.
What's that?
Motion.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, so moved. Meeting adjourned.